that importance. So anyway, thank you. Let's give another hand, I think, for Winnie. I just really appreciate. Thank you for persevering through the sound trouble, and thank you, Donnie, for being awesome as usual. Our next storyteller is a 10x9 Nashville legend. There's no other way around it. Kristen Chapman Gibbons is. Well, I have in front of me, she's our social media strategist. Hello. She's, yes, which means she is
good at Twitter.
And we have an Instagram, or I don't know.
I do it for the 10x9.
She is the face of 10x9. Anyway, there's so much good to say about Kristen. So glad she's here tonight. This is her 14th story. Wow. I think it's just time to welcome her to the stage. Kristen Chapman Gibbons.
So I'm the off-the-cuff one. Apologies in advance. A couple things that are important to understand as far as like a context to the story I'm going to tell, and that is that my dad was a Southern Baptist minister growing up, and also not a nice person. So just keep these things in mind because you'll see the webs, the intricate webs. So I only applied to one college because I was not particularly convinced that I had any kind of special talent when I was finishing up high school. And I really didn't think anybody would take me, and that was just my mindset. So I applied to one college, which was the college my dad went to, where I was born, actually, which is Carson Newman College out in East Tennessee. So I go to Carson Newman College right out of high school, as you do, and my freshman year is kind of this weird hermity thing. Like I was trying to figure out how to do college and be like cool on the hall and get the RA to like me and all that stuff that doesn't matter at all now. I was really worried about making all A's because that's the kind of person I am. So my freshman year was basically a big block of anxiety, pretty much. But one thing happened that year that ended up having like this huge effect later on, and that was that on my hall of all good Baptist girls, every single girl on my hall was Southern Baptist. One of the girls came to me towards the end of the year, and she was a pianist for a local church. And she came to me and she said, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And she said, look, I'm pregnant and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I need you to help me figure this out. Well, it's important to note, weirdly, that this story came before mine, I'll say. Weirdly, I had been like pretty staunch pro-life person and politically active on that front since I was about 13. So it was like a big issue for me, right? Well, she was broken, and she was petrified for anybody to find out. This was like 1988, just to give you a historical clue. So she's terrified. She doesn't know what to do. They're going to kick her out of the church. She's going to be kicked out if she comes up pregnant. What is she going to do? Well, me and one other girl in the hall, the three of us, are like racking our brains trying to figure this out. Eventually, the girl in the hall tells me that she's decided that she wants to terminate her pregnancy, and would I take her? And I said, I'm going to need to think on that a minute. I'm going to need to pray about it, because I was still very devout at that point. So I did, and I came back. I talked to my mama, and my mama said, help your friend. She's hurting. She came to you. Don't turn her away. Do what you got to do in the car on the way. Don't turn your friend away. So that's what I did. I spent the entire journey to Louisville, which is not close, trying to convince her to change her mind. We get there, we're walking into the clinic, and there's all these protesters everywhere, and everybody's yelling, screaming, and I'm just like trying to be there for her. And all of a sudden, I get whacked in the head. And I looked down on the ground to see what in the heck just hit me in the head. A Bible. Because let me tell you, when you really want to convince someone that your faith is everything, you should definitely hit them with your holy book, because it has a particular effect. That effect on me was to really piss me off because of why I was there. I could have been them, right? So I went in, I stayed with her, brought her back, yada yada, freshman year's over. Sophomore year is really all about me trying to find my own friends outside of the ones assigned to me on the hall. Y'all know how that goes. Junior year comes around, and this is the beginning of the first Gulf War, youngins. And by this point, my Christianity had really changed, and it's all the fault of the campus ministry department at Carson-Newman College, so I want that on the record. My very first protest in D.C., I was taken by my campus minister from Carson-Newman. It was a Housing Now march, and I was living in a homeless shelter at this point as a student, right? I was the weekend night manager person in the shelter. The shelter was run by my school, my college. So, the Gulf War starts, I'm all protesting, I'm loud, I'm organizing the peace vigils, I'm doing all the stuff, and I'm coming at it from this very decidedly, shall we say, leftist Christian point of view. Still very much in my worldview is being driven by my faith at this point. And this dude at Carson-Newman had a column in the student newspaper. And he started writing these columns basically cheerleading the war. Okay, so you can imagine that like pretty much nobody disagreed with the first Gulf War, so that should tell you a whole lot about where I was at too. But he was a bit over the top with his yah-yahin. And he used racial epithets in his column about Muslim people. And that really pissed me off. So I wrote him a very long, very detailed, footnoted letter to the editor, and it got published. Well, he came at me in his next column. So I wrote another letter. This went back and forth for about 6 months. And it got really petty and ugly, and I'm not ashamed. Because senior year, my best girlfriend became editor of the paper. So I got his column. That was my revenge. I was the social issues columnist. Again, still very committed Baptist. I'm going to the Baptist ethics conferences in Nashville like a big shot. And essentially what happens is I recognize at this point that there are all these conflicting ideologies in my head that may not all make sense to me at the same time. And that I'm supposed to articulate them for other people. And that might be hard if I really don't know like where all the corners are in what I believe. So I said, you know what? Write yourself an abortion column. That'll wake you up. So I did, and I essentially told the story of exactly what had happened to me. The part that I left out in the earlier tale of the girl in my hall is that part of what my mom told me when I called her is that she was pro-choice, which blew me away, like literally speechless. Because my mom said, nobody wants to know my opinion on these things. So if you go ask me, I'm going to tell you. So I said, why? She had a best friend, one of her best friends growing up, was abused by their father and had to have the child, and their life was ruined. This is what she told me in tears. And she said, this is why I believe what I believe. So I told that story. I told about this sort of dialogue that was happening within myself, like trying to figure this out. What did this mean to me now? And I published it. Well, it caused quite the uproar. Even though I didn't really come out like either way, I just was sort of teasing questions out. But fundamentalists do not like that. Just for future reference. They don't like questions teased. They like yes or no. That's it. That's all they like. So I started getting all this hate mail. And it was really scary, and I got like this baby doll covered in ketchup in my mailbox at school. So these people, they kind of turned to my stomach, and they really pissed me off. So I was really thinking that I needed to come out, you know, guns blazing for the next column. And then I got a different kind of letter. And this was a letter from a girl that I did not know on campus, who had also had an abortion, who was terrified of people finding out, you know, all the same kind of stuff, thanking me for at least talking about it. She said, this is like something I have to deal with every day. Then I started getting more of those kind of letters. Maybe not even people that had this procedure, but just that, hey, thanks for not demonizing this. Like, thanks for putting people behind beliefs. That's important, right? That meant a whole lot to me. And so what I remember the most is during all of that time when I was like going to DC and like protesting with my campus minister, living in the homeless shelter, and basically being a badass. I remember that when I finally learned what feminism was, which was not there, because why would anybody talk about feminism at a Baptist college? Please. When I finally like learned a little bit about feminism, one of the first things that sort of like knocked me back was something that Gloria Steinem says, right? The personal is political. And for me, my experiences in this extremely conservative environment, I learned a couple things, right? If I'm ever in a situation when there's not a lot of flexibility, you need to watch out, because I'm going to do the opposite of what you want me to do. And the more that you try and get me to do what you want me to do, the less I'm going to do it. And the more hell I'm going to raise when you push me. These are important things to learn about yourself. It's also important to remember that we have all these political beliefs, and I know because I have Facebook that we all hate each other online about what we believe. And I often think back to those days, because please don't mistake me for being high-minded. I hated that dude with the column. Hated him. He's not worth me, right? No. But I learned that there are other people out there who aren't going to do like stupid, ugly, brutish things just because you disagree with them, or just because you want to have a conversation that's uncomfortable. And that was a really important lesson to me. So thank you very much.